Dale, firstly, it's been a busy time with the manager adding to the first team squad. How happy are yourself and the board with how the summer's going?
I think so far we reflect on it really positively, Gareth. This transfer window's been kind of 6 months in the making. The fans will remember we did Jordan Davis in January, Ryan Millen towards the end of January, start of February, Logan O'Boy in that time frame as well. So it's where the manager wants to get to, and it's where we as a board want to get to, and myself as general manager as well, that we're beginning to plan a wee bit more ahead than going window to window and trying to look at, what now when we conclude this window, what does summer next year look like, and how do we begin to build around that. I think probably over the next few weeks we'll be able to detail a wee bit more in terms of how we're trying to structure that. But so far I think we're really positive. I think if you look at the home games that we've had in the pre-season friendlies, it's been very, very positive, and we're beginning to see flashes of the quality of the players that we brought into the building, and it's an exciting time for the manager and his staff to get to work with the players that they brought into the group.
And during this time of the season, what are the important aspects between the board, yourself and the manager working together?
Having your phone turned on is the first one. But no, it's about being accessible, and we all need to support each other. Transfer windows and this time of year generally take transfers out of it is a very strenuous time for any football club and every football club. So we speak to each other constantly, daily, and we're bouncing things off each other, whether it be to do with football or whether it be not to do with football. And I think we're all comfortable in our own skin to be able to ask each other for support, help, and a wee bit of bouncing ideas off each other. But for example, the manager was away on holiday and I was away on holiday at the same time, and we're still speaking constantly when we're away. 10 minutes before, one of my best mates was walking down the aisle, and I was at his wedding. So it is just that bit of being accessible and knowing the kind of people you're dealing with. I have to pay testament to our chairman, John Laird, who's been absolutely fantastic through this window of time, not just in relation to the football department, but in relation to the other facets of the club, and also to the board for their continued support. But I think it's been a really positive time for the club, and it's now about using this as the very base of foundation for moving into the next phase.
Well, we've of course had 2 home friendlies so far and 2 more to come as well. How happy have you been in terms of pulling together a home schedule for friendlies this year, and why was it so important for you for that to happen?
I think it's important for a number of reasons, Gareth. I know that the club's not really had a big number of home friendlies in recent years, and for me, we need to get new players acclimatised to playing here, and we knew this window as well we were going to be taking players from out with Scotland that might not know of Capello or might not have played at Capello before. So it was something that the manager and I discussed, was try to get them used to playing here and the facilities here. But I think also just to get the fans back on board, to get the energy back about the place. Although sometimes it's only a month until everyone's back in for pre-season training, it still feels like a very long time. Right, the Euros have negated that. Well, it certainly did for a week that Scotland were in it, but it's about remembering that this is our home, and we want to make sure that this facility is utilised as much as physically possible.
Yeah, you talk about the facilities being utilised as much as possible. Changes have been afoot during the off season to try and develop the business side of the club. How challenging has that been for you?
It's been extremely challenging, probably more challenging than I expected, and this is probably where I have to show a wee bit of vulnerability in myself, that I'm still a young person in this role. I'm still learning and developing every day and finding out the nooks and crannies of this job. But every football club I've worked at has had the same issue, where just when you think you're getting one bit sorted, the next bit needs a wee bit more attention. So, we've had people that have departed the football club. We've had people that have come into the football club. We've also had people that have come in that have then departed the football club. So it's a constant cycle. What we're trying to find now is hopefully a space where we can get a bit of calm, and we can get on with the job at hand. But I have to say that when I came into the building in November, we had limited experience in certain areas. I feel like we've beginning to build up those experience where we're putting the training and development in place for people, and sometimes that's the bit that goes under the radar, as we just expect people to take to these jobs like a duck to water. We forget that it's my job and the board's job to make sure that we train and develop the staff as well. And I look at yourself, Gareth, other members of the team, Alistair as an example, and we've been able to put building blocks around you guys to be able to grow and build on your skills. So it has been challenging. It will get even more challenging. That I can't hide from. But there's also got to come a level off. Instead of looking at what's gone before, we need to look at what comes forward, because that is the bit where we all need to be joined up. And as a football club, every department has to work together.
And as the club continues to march towards the start of the league campaign, can you give us an idea where we currently stand with season tickets and where you would like to get to?
I'd like to get to as many as possible. But right now we're 15% roughly away from the figure we hit last year. So when we look at it, that 15% is probably the most vital 15%, because that's what gets us, closer to where we need to be. Also like to keep in perspective that as a community-owned club, every pound is so important, and hopefully, the work that we're doing that can be seen and is visible is giving supporters encouragement that we are going in the right direction, and this is an exciting time to be part of the football club. So if we could get that extra 15%, we'd be absolutely elated. We'd be over the moon, because it gets us really to where we want to be. Again, I'll reiterate what I said. I think I said it after the Motherwell game and after the Hearts game, that we need to find ways of adding 5-10% here and there. And, I would love to do that. I understand the challenges that are out there. But, we are very, very positive. I think you only have to look at the reaction to our team Taun, which is now 114, 115 members, which shows there is a massive appetite for this football club. And, it's up to us to keep going out and keep engaging with the community, keep on building those relationships and rebuilding those relationships. And it's probably, I said this at the fixture release breakfast last week, that one thing we need to get used to right now is apologising for certain things, because when we do get things wrong, the most important thing you can do is be honest and hold your hands up. And there are things that we'll get right and there's things that we'll get wrong, but we're really, really positive in terms of what comes next, and we hope people are beginning to see that and people want to come on board for the journey.
And across the club, the demands of each department have obviously been tightened and harnessed as well. What insight can you give us as to how the club's performing right now?
Good question. We're not where we need to be, but we're not a million miles away either. I think probably, if I'm being honest, that there is so much to cover at this football club, and that's purely on the basis that there's infrastructure that's been in place for a long time that we need to make sure is up to date and operational. There are learnings. There's always something to learn, but the focus has changed at the club from trying to tick off the minimum to get us to where we need to be, to now trying to get to the next level, and how far away are we from it. So we're not now looking at, do we just have the fundamental basics in place? It's then, how do we make sure that we not only have the basics in place, but we're ahead of the game, so that we're not always playing catch up and we're not getting caught out in certain areas, and we're not then going back to people with our tail between our legs. I think people will acknowledge that in some of the offerings that we're making this season, with the price freeze on season tickets, with the early bird offer for hospitality, we are really trying to meet the demands. So every area of the club has been under microscope, but it's now about building the plans to take every department forward, and that for the supporters, probably the less sexy part of the football club, but it is centrally important that we maintain what this football club's about, which is sustainability, and making sure that this club is here for the next 50 to 100 years.
And this time of the year as well, is where the vital work matters off the field as well, with the less glamorous items, such as the safety certificates, the club licensing, etc. Can you update us with how compliant the club is and where we are in the scale of improvement?
So, first of all, I have to pay tribute to Alistair Joyce, the club secretary, and Brian Ewing, who's been in as a consultant with us. Those guys have kind of got us over the line with our club licensing to the point where, you know, we have a couple of variances that we need to tick off, which will be done. But more importantly, on the back of this year, what the guys have compiled is, you know, for the past few years we've had bronze. We're now looking at what we would need to have to get to silver. Now, because of the infrastructure that we've got here with the stadium, we're probably not going to get a silver award next year or the year after. You know, it would take significant investment to get us there. But can we get the other areas of the club where we can get to silver, get that in place so that, again, the more work we put into it now, the easier and the better it's going to be year on year to maintain those higher standards. And then if there is a drop off, it's not that we're dropping from bronze to entry, we're dropping from silver to bronze. So those guys are putting a great amount of work to get all of that over the line. And that's a huge time consuming job, is to put together the club licensing documentation. But I have to thank the SFA, because we are a new administration in terms of myself as general manager, Alistair as secretary, that, you know, there's been some help and advice needed along the way, and the SFA have been superb. In terms of the stadium and the safety certificate, we are waiting on one final piece of the jigsaw, which hopefully could be completed this week, which will get us our safety certificate again. Going forward with that one, we've managed to hopefully build more positive relationships with the police, with fire and rescue, with the council, as to how we manage that going forward, and begin to change how we do it to make it more effective across the year, rather than try to fit everything into a 2-week time frame in June. Is how do we prepare ourselves better across the year, so that when the visit comes next year, we go, there it is, and we're ready.
You know, it's been noted on several occasions as well, the land that's currently lying bare just next to the Norseman over behind the cowshed. You know, what can you tell us the plans are for that piece of land?
This is where you have to be the bad guy and break a bit of bad news. There will be no progression with that land in the short term. Coming in November, I saw it as a real opportunity for the club, as did the board. We've spent the best part of the last 8 months looking at various options. We've had surveyors in, we've had architects in to look at what we can do with the land. And right now, due to the financial investment that would be required, we are not going to be in a position to move forward with it at this point in time. You know, we will keep, it is an ongoing thing that we do speak about at board level every meeting. So it's not as if it's going under the carpet and will never be seen again. But what we don't want to do is go and put something in place that's that's half done or is done on the cheap, and then we end up, it costs us more because we've done it on the cheap to repair things and replace things after a few weeks because we've not done it right. You know, this club doesn't carry £500,000, £1 million in reserves, so we don't have that money to throw at it. We also have to bear in mind that land would be great as a community area, but this realistically is a country that for 12 months of the year it does rain, so we would need a covered space for it to be maximised. Nobody would want to stand there, you know, 2 hours before kick-off on a Saturday and get absolutely soaked to the bone. We also have the challenge, which was going to fall as part of it, would be to have a modular building there, which would encompass office space and other commercial opportunities. But, you know, right now we are very, very short of space in the stadium. We have staff working in various facilities because we don't have the foot space right now. So there are knock-on effects. But again, this is where we have to do what's right for the football club, and right now we're not in a financial position to move that one forward, but it will remain something we will continue to look at where we can create investment opportunities to develop that land.
This summer as well, we saw the addition of 6 new apprentices. How can the club capitalise on this investment in the youth and continue to use the academy to produce young talent for the first team?
So it's important to say, Gareth, that, you know, we're part of a number of clubs that have this apprenticeship scheme running across the country. You know, I obviously seen it in place up at Ross County, where it was in place for, I think, over a decade now. And the important part is that these boys don't just come in and that the expectation is that they're going to get their chance. They need to prove that. They need to put in the work. I was very lucky that I was here when the 6 players signed, and I met them all and looked them all in the eye. And what I think we have is 6 young guys that add to the apprentices what will remain from last year, and looking at it and going, if these young guys apply themselves right, if they live their lives right, then hopefully we might begin to see one of them creep into our first team. I think any football club in the world would say if you got one player from your academy into your first team each year, that is incredible success. But, you know, there's a lot of things that have to go into that to make it happen, and it's about trying to join up the different areas of the football club to make sure that we give everyone the best opportunity to succeed, including those 6 guys and the apprentices from last year also. So we're taking what we believe are positive steps and trying to make sure that we do have a pathway. But, you know, we might not see the fruits of that labour immediately, but by putting it in place, it gives us the best opportunity to do so.
And just finally, Dale, we know that something that you've said previously is the fact that with the 3-year club strategy, that's something that you'd like to be judged against. It's been just under 6 months since the strategy was first revealed. How do you assess the progress that's been made so far on that?
Yeah, I've gone really hard on the club strategy, Gareth, purely on the fact that I believe it's so important, and, you know, it's given the supporters, the staff, myself, clarity on where we need to go. You're right, I do want to be judged on it, and whether that means that I get emptied in 3 months' time, then that's fine, I'm okay with that. But I went through an exercise last Sunday. I was in for a few hours, and I went through the strategy tactics on each pillar, and, you know, I think 75% of the tactics we've already made positive moves on. If you look at, you know, we've reappointed Gary Forbes as a women's team's manager, and we began to put some infrastructure around that. So that's really positive. Our community engagement is getting stronger. Brian McLaughlin did a fabulous interview with yourself last week, and Brian's somebody I've got the utmost respect for. If you look at, you know, some of the other areas that we're covering off in terms of the governance and the commercial, etc., we are beginning to make inroads into that. Listen, it's a 3-year strategy for a reason, because by the end of the 3 years you hope to have accomplished that, or have evidence to show that you've got towards those aims. And I think the fact that we're sitting 6 months, 7 months down the line, having already started some really positive work, and 75% of them, shows the appetite in the building, not just from me but from the staff, to want to make this work and to want to be accountable to our supporters. And as a community-owned club, we are accountable to each and every supporter. And I have to say and reiterate that I think our supporters have been very, very good, very patient with myself since I've come in. You know, I've said it earlier in the interview, I'm not the finished article, so there has to be that level of patience and that level of understanding that, you know, there will be cracks and wee breaks along the way. But I think where we are is we've put ourselves in a position where we really, really want to be accountable for our actions at this club, and not be seen just to float along.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.